ada hukum perdata? Belum masuk. Yang selain hukum perdata Bapak. Selesai. Ya sudah ada beberapa. Waktunya itu, waktunya dia bisa Bapak dapatkan sebelum dikasih ke di jabatan. Tidak salah umat itu. Dan guna awak bikin siap dia kemarin. Kalau lebih dekat kurang itu, tadi itu mas dokter aja. Sedang Bapak dokter. Kalau berpisah. Dan utang kontrol. Itu apa? Dokter sebelumnya apa dokter? Dokter. Ya, dapat terima. Belum aja sinarnya masih. Nomor syariah itu wajib disimpan. Gitu. Udah ya. Baik, tinggal bapaknya cari tolong. Teman-temannya mana? Mana ada temannya? 20 yang berminat aja. Cukupnya 50 sekarang. Jadi 10. Jadi 10 banyak.
Kan bisa display kok.
kepada junjungan kita, semoga senantiasa tercurahkan Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala sayyidina Muhammad. Yang terhormat Dekan Fakultas Undang-Undang Universitas Kebangsaan Malaysia, Ibu Profesor Rasyikah, PhD, selamat datang di Bengkulu, Ibu. Dan ini kedatangan yang barangkali yang keempat atau kelima, gitu ya. Keempat ya, luar biasa. Kita senantiasa dikunjungi oleh beliau untuk berbagi pengetahuan. Yang saya hormati Ketua Program Studi Dr. Ilmu Hukum Fakultas Hukum Universitas Bengkulu, Profesor Herlambang. Yang saya hormati para guru besar Fakultas Hukum Universitas Bengkulu, hadir Profesor Herawan, yang sekaligus dosen dan dengan tugas tambahan sebagai Ketua Senat Universitas Bengkulu, Profesor Iskandar, dan kandidat profesor, ya. Dan tidak lama lagi ada Profesor Sirman dan Profesor Emilia dan yang lainnya. Kita doakan. Tentu yang kami banggakan para sivitas akademika, dosen dan mahasiswa Fakultas Hukum Universitas Bengkulu, baik pada program sarjana dan terutama pada program magister dan program doktor ilmu hukum yang berhadir saat ini. Oh ya, lupa di belakang ada ketua bagian, ya. Dr. Ariel, ketua bagian hukum tata negara administrasi negara. Mesti di depan hari. Baik, pada kesempatan ini kita akan mengikuti dua agenda secara maraton. Mudah-mudahan nanti ada output akademik yang bisa kita jadikan karya kolaboratif. Hari ini ada kuliah umum itu dengan tema yang bisa dibaca. Kemudian besok kita ada mendapat pelatihan ya, dengan narasumber yang sama untuk kolaborasi penulisan artikel ilmiah di bidang hukum. Mudah-mudahan nanti bisa dikolaborasinya dengan antara dosen Fakultas Hukum Universitas Bengkulu dengan dosen Fakultas Undang-Undang UKM, sehingga nanti menambah karya-karya internasional. Tidak hanya dosen, tentunya nanti mahasiswa program doktor, magister, dan program sarjana juga bisa berkolaborasi. Kemarin saya sudah tanya ke Prof. Rasyikah, mereka punya 2 jurnal dan sudah open access itu. Nanti untuk mahasiswa S1 juga nanti bisa mengirimkan artikelnya. Saya tanya bahasanya bahasa Inggris gitu ya. Kalau bahasa Melayu kita nanti salah sama kalimatnya gitu. Nah, ini saya pikir berkah yang akan kita tidak lanjuti dalam beberapa waktu ke depan. Kemudian kepada Prof. Rasyikah juga kami sampaikan, kami belum merancang studi untuk belajar ke UKM, khususnya di Fakultas Undang-Undang. Tahun ini kita sudah nyari seperangkat, ya. Tapi dengan rombongan besar belum diberikan izin. Ya. Nanti kami reschedule nanti di semester depan, mungkin sebelum Ramadan. Insya Allah kita bisa mewujudkan cita-cita kita untuk belajar baik manajemen maupun akademiknya dengan membawa mahasiswa kita ke Fakultas Undang-Undang UKM, karena ini tempat belajar yang tepat sekali gitu ya. Tadi saya browsing posisi ranking World Ranking University-nya di 120 rujukan Bu ya. 120 dunia. Saya pikir ini tempat belajar yang pas gitu ya. Bagaimana kita secara pelan-pelan bisa masuk ke wilayah itu ya. Tentu ini perlu kerjasama dan perlu juga belajar dari berbagai universitas atau fakultas hukum yang menjadi mitra kita. Nah, kemudian tadi kita juga ada rencana ke depan dengan Prof. Rasyikah sebagai Ketua Badan Kerjasama Dekan. Apa istilahnya kalau di Malaysia ya. Dari Fakultas Hukum di Malaysia itu cuma aja dibatasi ya, cuma ada 7 semuanya pada public university, ya. 7 fakultas hukum dengan rank rata-ratanya semua di bawah 200 PS ranking. Jadi buat rankingnya sudah bagus semua. Mungkin ada yang 60 ya, 60 itu Universitas Malah ya, itu yang ranking 60 dunia. Nah, tinggal nanti banyak hal yang bisa kita rangkum. Kita nanti dijembati oleh Prof. Rasyikah untuk memperluas jejaring kita di Malaysia, gitu ya, untuk secara bersama-sama melakukan kegiatan internasional. Dengan 7 fakultas hukum di Mabah kita dan beberapa fakultas hukum di Indonesia yang sudah berkolaborasi di fakultas hukum yang ada di Malaysia. Saya pikir ini menjadi ya, sebuah keberuntungan bagi kita ya, untuk membenahi dan lebih meningkatkan mutu pada mahasiswa dan pada dosen fakultas hukum Universitas Publik. Nah, untuk selanjutnya dengan tidak berpanjang lebar lagi, kalau memperkenalkan student body, Prof. Rasyikah sudah cukup sering mendengar ya. Dan posisi kita di sekitar 2000 ya, untuk sekarang 2236 mahasiswa aktif gitu. Ya, kisarannya seperti itu ya. Nah, pada kesempatan ini untuk memulai acara general lecture dengan tema Philosophy and Development of Law Study yang dilaksanakan oleh program studi Dr. Ilmu Hukum Kuliah Umum dengan narasumber Profesor Dr. Rasyikah MD Khalid dari FUU UKM Malaysia. Dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, kita buka. Seperti budaya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih kepada Pak Regan atas sambutan yang diberikan. Hadirin yang berbahagia, agar acara kita berjalan lancar dan penuh berkah, marilah kita bersama-sama berdoa. Doa akan dipimpin oleh Bapak Emil Hamadi Pio SMK. Kepada Pak Pio kami persilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian, mari sejenak kita berdoa, menundukkan hati dan kepala kita, meminta kepada Allah Subhanahu wa taala agar acara kita pada pagi hari ini diberikan limpahan berkah. Ala hadhihi as-salihah naqra'u al-Qur'an al-Fatihah. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Arrahmanir rahim. Maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, Tuhan yang Maha mengetahui dan Maha bijaksana, segala puji bagimu yang telah memberikan kami kesempatan untuk berkumpul pada hari ini dalam majelis ilmu yang mulia ini. Kami bersyukur atas nikmat kesehatan, kesempatan dan kemudahan yang Engkau berikan, sehingga kami dapat hadir dalam kegiatan general lecture ini. Kami mohon keberkahan-Mu atas acara ini, ya Allah. Berkahilah ilmu yang akan disampaikan oleh Profesor Dr. Rasyikah MD Khalid dalam tema Philosophy and Development of Law Study. Jadikanlah beliau sebagai pembawa cahaya ilmu yang bermanfaat bagi kami semua. Ya Allah, ya Rahman, lapangkanlah hati dan pikiran kami untuk menerima setiap ilmu yang disampaikan. Berikanlah kami pemahaman yang mendalam, ingatan yang kuat, dan kemampuan untuk mengaplikasikan ilmu ini dalam kehidupan dan pengabdian kami. Muliakanlah program Doktor Ilmu Hukum Fakultas Hukum Universitas Bengkulu. Jadikanlah program ini sebagai wadah untuk mencetak para akademisi dan praktisi hukum yang berintegritas, berilmu, dan bermanfaat bagi masyarakat dan bangsa. Lindungilah semua yang hadir, para dosen, mahasiswa dan panitia pelaksana. Berikan kami kekuatan untuk terus menuntut ilmu dan mengembangkan diri dalam bidang hukum. Ya Allah, jadikanlah ilmu yang kami peroleh hari ini sebagai amal jariah yang terus mengalir manfaatnya, dan jauhkanlah kami dari ilmu yang tidak bermanfaat. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadza jam'an marhuman wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suman. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selanjutnya, kami mengundang dengan hormat jajaran pimpinan, Prof. Rasyikah, Bapak Ibu dosen, dan para peserta untuk melakukan sesi foto bersama. Kepada Bapak dan Ibu dipersilakan untuk mengambil tempat di tempat. Dan untuk para peserta, silakan berdiri di tempat yang masing-masing. Kita akan melakukan sesi foto bersama. Baik Bapak Ibu yang terhormat, sebelum kita memulai acara inti kita pada hari ini, izinkan saya membacakan sebuah pantun. Jadi ketika saya berpantun, mohon dibalas dengan cakep ya Bapak Ibu. Jalan-jalan ke Pantai Panjang, pasir putih indah luar biasa. Prof. Rasyikah hadir kembali di tengah-tengah kita, memberi ilmu yang bermanfaat bagi semua. Bapak Ibu yang berbahagia, kita telah sampai pada acara inti kita pada hari ini, yaitu kuliah umum dengan tema Philosophy and Development of Law Study. Pada sesi ini, materi kuliah umum ini akan disampaikan oleh narasumber kita yang tidak asing bagi kita semua, yaitu Profesor Dr. Rasyikah MD Khalid. Beliau merupakan guru besar dan juga Dekan Fakulti Undang-Undang Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia. Dan tentunya sesi ini akan dipandu oleh moderator kita yang luar biasa. Jadi maka dari itu waktu sepenuhnya akan saya serahkan kepada beliau. Marilah kita sambut moderator kita yang luar biasa, Ibu Kuliah Rasyikah SHMKM. Beri tepuk tangan.
Baik, terima kasih kepada pembawa acara kita. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bapak, Ibu, dekan dan dosen-dosen dan juga seluruh peserta kuliah umum atau general lecture pada pagi hari ini yang saya hormati. Sebelum kita mulai sesi kuliah umum ini, saya mohon izin untuk memperkenalkan diri terlebih dahulu. Saya Kuliah Rasyikah, biasa dipanggil Cita, salah satu dosen di Fakultas Hukum Universitas Bengkulu, dan merupakan suatu kehormatan bagi saya untuk diamanahkan sebagai moderator pada sesi kuliah umum pada pagi hari ini. Dan pada pagi hari ini kita sudah kedatangan tamu dan juga dosen, juga guru besar yang luar biasa, yaitu Profesor Rasyikah MD Khalid. Profesor Rasyikah adalah guru besar dari Fakultas Hukum Universitas Kebangsaan Malaysia. Beliau merupakan lulusan dari University of Sheffield, United Kingdom pada tahun 1998 dan kemudian mendapatkan Master of Laws di University Malaya di tahun 2001, kemudian mendapatkan Doctor of Philosophy-nya di University Kebangsaan Malaysia pada tahun 2014. Beliau merupakan dekan atau dean di University Kebangsaan Malaysia sekaligus Deputy Dean bidang Research and Innovation. Beliau memiliki bidang kepakaran atau expertise pada environment, specifically water resources management, environmental law, climate change law, heritage law, federalism, dan juga sustainable development. Beliau tentunya sudah banyak mempublikasikan hasil riset dan juga karya-karyanya, antara lain yang terbaru juga yaitu Legal Analysis of Reclaimed Wastewater Management in Indonesia, Reference to Malaysia and Singapore. Beliau juga merupakan seorang Senior Associate Fellow of Fuel Institute di UKM atau University Kebangsaan Malaysia dan juga Visiting Researcher at UNESCO Center for Water. Tanpa memperpanjang lagi, mohon tepuk tangan yang meriah bagi Profesor Rasyikah. Untuk selanjutnya, karena mengingat ada keterbatasan waktu, kita mulai saja kuliah umum ini ya Prof. Waktu dan tempat saya persilakan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pertamanya saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih sekali lagi kepada pihak Prof. Pak Dekan dan juga Prof. Lembang karena menjemput saya sekali lagi ke Bengkulu. Alhamdulillah kita bertemu lagi dan saya masih sedang datang ke Bengkulu. Seperti yang dimaklumkan tadi, insyaAllah esok kita berjumpa lagi untuk membincangkan kolaborasi yang mungkin kita boleh adakan antara Fakultas Hukum Bengkulu dan juga di UKM. Sebetulnya undangannya pada 15 dan 16 Desember dan ada beberapa acara yang telah diaturkan. Namun UKM terpaksa mengadakan satu bengkel untuk persediaan 2026, maka Vice Chancellor menetapkan 15-19 Desember. Jadi saya terpaksa datang awal dan oleh kerana itu mungkin berlaku miscommunication, salah faham di tingkat saya. Jadi tajuk yang saya akan bentangkannya berbeza daripada yang telah diadakan tadi. Namun kita boleh terus berbincang bersama esok juga dan petang ini. Sebabnya saya fikir tajuk asal itu untuk seminar bersama tetamu yang lain. Jadi untuk kuliah khusus bagi saya tetapkan tajuk mengenai triple planetary crisis, iaitu tentang isu bagaimana kita ingin selesaikan isu perubahan iklim, masa yang sama untuk selesaikan isu kehilangan biodiversity dan juga pencemaran. Ya baik, kita teruskan next slide. Jadi benda ini memang bukan saja di Malaysia tapi juga di Indonesia. Pencemaran, kemudian deforestation menyebabkan kehilangan flora dan fauna, dan climate change juga telah menyebabkan ketika isu ini menjadi semakin kompleks untuk diatasi, untuk diselesaikan, ya. Sekarang di Malaysia di bahagian utara sudah ada banjir di Kelantan, ya, Terengganu, dan rakan-rakan kita di Kuliah sekarang sudah tenggelam, ya, oleh banjir. Jadi banjir boleh menyebabkan banyak faktor yang menyebabkan banjir, seperti waste management, ya, bagaimana local council memantau drainage system dan sebagainya. By the same time, when you have climate change, the rain becomes heavier, yeah, and our drainage system cannot support the excess water that we have every time. Okay, now you can move to the next slide. Jadi sebenarnya tadi climate change is ini semua maklum, apakah itu climate change, perubahan iklim yang berlaku sekarang. Masa yang sama, pollution akibat ineffective waste management, pengurusan sisa yang tidak dikawal rapi, and then biodiversity loss akibat urbanisasi, many areas, forest area, we need to cut down, we need to deforest to give way for new cities, for new development. Next slide. So climate change causes extreme weather, at the same time ecosystem disruption. When you have hotter weather than before, okay, some of the animals cannot live under extreme weather, so that causes biodiversity loss. Pollution causing health risks. No, just say. Pollution causes health risks and environmental degradation. The more the polluted the river, then we're going to lose, fish, aquatic life that is important for our life, for our food security. Biodiversity loss is also threatening the other two parts. Okay, these are the ones who are suffering as a result of climate change and also pollution. Next. But what we can see from the literature, we have common problem. We have common problem to tackle this issue. Because the issue is so related to one another, then we don't have a good integration of environmental law. So we have been discussing about local government during our session just now. In Malaysia, local government doesn't have much authority in terms of environmental governance, so that becomes a problem. I will come to Malaysian example later. So we don't have comprehensive law. We have many laws. We have fisheries law, we have forestry law, we have wildlife law, we have street drainage and building act. We have separate law, but no coordination, no integration, when the problem that we are facing is very interrelated. So we don't know how to integrate that within the legal system that we have. The next problem is insufficient binding international commitment. So when we have Paris Agreement, we still have countries that refuse to sign, to ratify, such as United States of America. They still doesn't ratify Paris Agreement, so that's a problem. And many countries try to give a lot of exemption from, ratifying the whole thing. We still have problem in terms of enforcement. We have the good law. If we have the good law, are they implemented in efficient manner? Are they effective in terms of preventing people from committing pollution and deforestation? So, inadequacy of capacity is also a problem that we are facing. Say, for instance, if there is a enforcement by the officers, the case brought to the court, do our judges have the capacity to understand the complex problem? Do they understand the issues that is happening, how to tackle climate change, how to tackle biodiversity loss? So that's another issue. So even though we have money to solve the problem, we need the professionals to also understand the whole system. Next slide. So around the world, we have many frameworks already. We have the United Nations Framework for Climate Change Convention. We have the Convention on biological diversity. We have Stockholm Convention, Basel Convention, Paris Agreement, and Minamata Convention. All has been developed to tackle each and every issue separately. So, but they are not, connected or comprehensive enough to tackle the whole issue together. So, although the law is there, it is very sectoral. It doesn't address the whole problem in an integrated manner. Okay, next slide. Perhaps we can go back a bit to the history about 1968. We have Garrett Harding published his seminal essay, The Tragedy of the Commons. So he says that, rivers on land, it is used by everybody, and most people who would like to take the benefit, maximize the benefit that they have, and as a result, the rivers become polluted, the land become degraded. So that's the tragedy, because nobody actually takes care of the commons, which is used by everybody. 1972, we have the United Nations Conference on Human Environment that have made in Scotland, Stockholm, and then we have Stockholm Declaration. So they have been discussing and then coming for new declaration every time. 1987, the report, okay, our common future, also highlighted the need for sustainable development. We can develop, but at the same time, are we thinking about the next generation? Can they develop as we are developing now? Can they still see tigers in the forest, elephants in the forest, or they can only see that in the photos? Next slide. 1992, leaders around the world come to Rio and then try to think how we need to move forward, what the government need to do now. And every 10 years, they come again to Rio for Rio plus 10, then Rio plus 20, and then Rio plus 30, to see, are we moving forward enough? Are we moving slowly? What should we need to do as world leaders? And then we had Paris Agreement in 2015. Leaders around the world are still discussing things, how to move forward. And then now in Belgium, in Brazil, they are having a Conference of Parties meeting, but the climate change is still accelerating. So, and now in 2021, we have the UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration. So countries around the world, the leaders are discussing, but when they came back to their country, if they have that strong political will, then they should do what is right. But when they come back and do the thing business as usual, nothing happens. So we have all this international commitment, but different countries doing different things to achieve their targets. So how to make sure that everybody, have the same political targets and political will. Next. So yes, they signed treaties. Malaysia, Indonesia signed the Paris Agreement, but what is actually happening on the ground is another issue. Domestic regulation, are we in line with the international commitment that we have signed at United Nations? We increase our enforcement capacity, and are we doing monitoring right? So these are the things that the government, whether it's at the federal or state or the local government level, must actually sit down together and see whether we have doing everything right in order to solve one thing that will eventually solve other things. Next. At the end of the day, we have to come back to the basic principle of environmental law. Things like precautionary principle, are we preventing activities that might injure the environment? Are we still allowing, give license to companies who are going to pollute? What are the strategies or conditions that we put to the companies so that they don't pollute easily? Whether we have imposed for them to reuse the wastewater, recycle the water, the polluted water. So that's the question. And then we have sustainable development for countries to ensure that new development that they approve will not injure the environment. And the responsibility principle, the polluter pay principle, now developed into many other types of principles. How do we actually monitor that? So that's the question, the things that the government, the agencies need to check. And assess and participation. In Malaysia, we are slowly allowing people to come and give feedback, but the remaining question is how that feedback from the community is analyzed and then incorporated into the decision making. So these are the things that in Europe, for instance, they are well taken care of. They have developed this long ago, and they have all this, series of consultation with the community before any development takes place. Perhaps in ASEAN, we are still developing, so they are not that stringent. You have that in the law, but how you process the feedback is another issue. Thanks. But at the end of the day, what we want is to ensure justice for all people. For climate change, we term it as climate justice. And we have initial climate change litigation in Netherlands, Uganda Foundation versus Netherlands, and there is like a landmark case in climate change litigation, which require the government to mitigate climate change because there is a human right for the citizen. Not only the government, stop there, not only the government, the corporation who doing business in Netherlands must also disclose climate-related risks and must be imposed with strict environmental conditions. So this case imposed liability duty for the government and also corporation to ensure and mitigate climate change in any form. You must prove that whatever condition given by the government to the corporation can reduce the climate change mitigation. So this case is actually, a landmark for other countries to also impose this type of duty for the government that ensures climate justice for their citizens. Next. For biodiversity convention, conservation, there have been many other cases around the world to protect certain flora and fauna, to reduce deforestation, especially in Brazil, the Latin American countries. So there have been many progress in terms of biodiversity protection, biodiversity conservation. So this will actually ensure environmental justice for both flora, fauna, and also we as a people. Next slide. But pollution and waste management is still a big issue. We are struggling in Malaysia in particular. The classic example is Sungai Kim case, pollution case in Johor. Rivers have been polluted long ago, but this particular case is interesting because when the company put the toxic waste into the river and then climate change occurs at the same time, it becomes so hot in Malaysia during that time. What happens is that the toxic waste produce chemical gases, and because of that, schools, children, the people around the area got sick, they got hospitalized. Then only people look at this pollution case. If not, if there's no people hospitalized, then nobody cares about pollution. Nobody cares about river pollution. So this particular case raises the issue on environmental justice, on whether the government has provided a clean and healthy environment for the citizen. This case also highlights the procedural justice, whether the public have the right to say no to certain development in their areas because this chemical waste has been thrown by a factory around the area. This case also highlights the issue on distributive justice, whether fair share of burden has been imposed to the companies that operate. And this case also highlights the issue on restorative justice, whether polluters have repaired the damage that they have done, whether polluters go free. So how we want to ensure that those who pollute get fined as well as restore the river to their initial state. And this case also highlights the issue on transformative justice, consistent change to prevent recurrence of polluters. There has been, polluters, they keep on polluting because they are rich enough to pay the fine. But then how we want to make sure that they stop polluting. Next slide. So So these are the things that we have to overcome in ensuring that everything works in order and one problem can be solved effectively to ensure other problems are also checked. Okay. In terms of enforcement, it's more.
Okay.
Financial and technical resources is very important. State cannot do much when they don't have enough money to, solve the issue. And then technical, the capacity building of the enforcement officer, the judges, okay, basically the enforcement team must be improved. Jurisdictional overlap. In Malaysia, we have that problem when some things are governed by the federal government, some of the things governed by the state government, so there have been jurisdictional overlap. Corruption and political interference is also still remaining a problem in developing countries like Malaysia. They are hidden hands somewhere, although nobody say that the development is sustainable, but sometimes the development go ahead because political interference, complex environmental issues cannot be solved because everything is sectoral, and judicial reluctance. Judicially, they may not get enough exposure to the problem. So in Malaysia, we have Institute Latihan Kehakiman, where all the judges are trained with new things. So the judges can be aware of the new issues and they can judge accordingly. Next slide. Right, and then we have to establish legal accountability and corporate environmental responsibility. Now we have corporate social responsibility, CSR, but that's not enough because they may do so, as a formality, but they don't really care about environmental protection. So companies need to do their diligence to check whether whatever activities that they do can injure the environment, or what else they can do to enhance the environment. And we must also enable legal claim for damages from corporate negligence that they have caused. We need transparent environmental reporting from the companies. And that is something that Malaysia is trying to do now, and facilitate stakeholder monitoring and market-based accountability. For penalties, we can't just fine the companies who pollute. We must fine and also stop work order. We must suspend their operation, stop work, so they will suffer income as a result, unless and until they repair the damage that they have done. Okay, and enforce restoration and compensation to environmental damage. Okay, next slide. Another thing that government often forget is indigenous right, their knowledge, because they have lived, long ago, and they know how to handle things in different ways. They don't need law to protect the environment, they have their own ways. And this thing must be incorporated into the legal framework. We must acknowledge their knowledge, and we must promote the FPIC, free, prior and informed consent, in environmental decision making. And this will support indigenous knowledge conservation and also grant legal standing for the advocacy. Okay, next slide. So, what the government needs to do is to be more innovative. Government needs to think out of the box to make sure that the law is effective enough to solve the problem. So, climate risk disclosure law can be one where we can impose mandatory transparency for the corporation before they get any license to operate. We must make sure that they provide all this information. Right of nature legislation, we must give personhood. Some countries have do that. They give right to the river, they give right to the birds, they give right to the beach. There have been many cases in America for that. But Malaysia, we still haven't do that. I'm not sure about Indonesia. We start giving righthood, okay, for this environment. Environmental Court and Tribunal must be enhanced, the capacity of the judges. Former Chief Justice Tan Sri Richard Malajun, he was born in Sabah, in the forest, away from development. So when he became the Chief Justice, he bring about 12 judges to stay in the forest and feel how it feels, to protect the forest. So when the judges came back to the court, they imposed higher fine for the polluters. And green public procurement policy, government purchasing power must be, must ensure procurement is green, okay, and doesn't damage the environment. Next. And of course, public participation and access to environmental justice must be provided to ensure meaningful consultation with the community. Not only you invite the community to the town hall session, the government must also show that all these feedback are taken care of, incorporated into decision making. We don't not do it as a formality, but do it effectively. Next. Okay, now we have a lot of things. Technology comes in, AI and everything are here for you to use, for the government to use. So you can easily check whether the forests are being deforested. You can easily check the cause of pollution. You can, easily check things that you cannot do before with AI, with drones and all that. These are the technology that you can use, the government can use to ensure no deforestation in the future. And of course, engage citizens through science-based monitoring initiative. But beyond that, Malaysia as a federal system, we still have problems in terms of ensuring that each and every level of government correspond to effective environmental governance, because most of the time, the state government owns the resources. The forests, land, rivers are all under state government, but the federal government are the one who signed everything at United Nations. And so that makes it a challenge for Malaysian government to actually ensure the triple planetary crisis are taken care of. Slide. So this is one example, for instance, to combat climate change. Malaysia signed the Paris Agreement. One of the things is on LUCF, land use change and forestry. Land and forests are all under the state government, and that becomes a problem for the federal government to set the national policies when they have limited enforcement capacity in LUCF. State, for instance, they have other things that they need to consider. State saves money for their own development, state forests for loggings, so that becomes a conflicting priorities between federal and state government. So what the federal government needs to do is to replace that concern. They want money, so give them money. Yeah? So then they can follow whatever federal government asks them to do. So now we can see competitive federalism in Malaysia. What need to be changed is to have collaborative and cooperative
federalism, federal and state government needs to talk, discuss, and coordinate their work. So the government become integrated. Each and every level of government can do different things at the same time, but eventually solve a common problem. Next. So this is something that Malaysia hasn't done, but we propose. There are a series of discussion with the Majlis Professor Negara, and they have come up with all these suggestions to establish intergovernmental environmental council to harmonize federal and state regulation because forest, water, and land is under state government. Each and every state have different water law, each and every state have different forestry law. So that's a problem. And then build institutional capacity across government level, increase transparency and information sharing, which is very important, and promote inclusive stakeholder participation. Okay. So this is again on things that we have recommended to the government to change, clarify the role, especially in terms of enforcement across 3 levels of government. And then what we need to change is the federalism system. Don't compete. State cannot compete with another state. I mean, everybody needs to cooperate with each other to ensure improved intergovernmental coordination. Next. And what we're very happy to hear that when Prime Minister announced the budget recently, for next year, the government has allocated around 1 trillion ringgit. 250 million has been allocated for ecological fiscal transfer. So this is to make sure that states who have forests to protect their forests, conserve the biodiversity, and we give you money. And another 630 million is allocated for Natural Heritage Fund, so that this is very strategic investment for triple planetary crisis, because the forest can be declared as national natural heritage, and money will be there for the state government to use if they want, okay, to protect the forest, at the same time replace the money that they need from logging or deforestation. Next. So coming to the end, so we really hope that at the end of the day, environmental conservation needs money. Pollution needs to be reduced. Okay, so for climate change, both money that the government has allocated for next year can be used to protect forests and absorb carbon sink. The National Heritage Fund will support forest restoration. That will also help the climate change and also biodiversity loss. For the environmental fund, we promote sustainable land use, and the National Heritage Fund will promote investment in green infrastructure. For the EFT, will incentivize state to conserve ecosystem and wildlife, and the National Heritage Fund will conserve park forests and critical ecosystem. So we really have high hopes with the government budget to about 1 trillion just to protect the biodiversity, the forests. That will actually eventually help Malaysia to mitigate climate change, and the money can also be used to build infrastructure to reduce the pollution. Because of the problem is so intertwined, they are very close to another. We are hoping to see next year things change. States are more willing to conserve their forests, and that will eventually help, tackling the problem that we have. Yeah, I think that's all. Thank you so much for paying attention. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, that was a wonderful presentation by Professor Rasyikah. And right after this, we are going to have a discussion session. And the first session will be limited to 3 people to question and will be directly answered by Professor Rasyikah. One by one. The first session will open now. The first 3 people, raise your hands. Right. There are 3 people already, Bapak Ahmad Wali, Arimbi, and the one from the back, with the glasses. Right. Okay.
Baik, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Terima kasih moderator, terima kasih Profesor Dr. Rasyikah Khalid. Pertanyaan saya adalah, dalam globalisasi, ya, kepentingan modal sangat mempengaruhi menentukan permainan pemilihan pejabat-pejabat politik, dan itu menjadi transaksional, oligarki to government. Nah, Indonesia sudah mengalami itu setelah konflik dengan Malaysia, Dwi Kora 1965. Tahun 1967 Indonesia menerbitkan Undang-Undang Nomor 1 tahun 1967 tentang penanaman modal asing. Presiden Soeharto membuka Indonesia untuk investasi asing. Dalam hal ini minyak, gas, batu bara, nikel, emas, dan perkebunan kelapa sawit. Nah, problem daripada lingkungan itu adalah dampak dari aktivitas perusahaan-perusahaan besar yang mengeksploitasi sumber daya alam Indonesia, khususnya Sumatera dan Kalimantan serta Sulawesi. Contoh, ini mohon maaf agak sensitif, tapi karena kita bersaudara, tapi nggak apa-apa kita untuk diskusi ilmiah. Banyak perusahaan perkebunan kelapa sawit, pertambangan, itu berasal dari Malaysia, terutama orang-orang keturunan Chinese Malaysia. Ya, itu berinvestasi, membuka hutan, menggali sumber daya alam di Indonesia. Bahkan beberapa perusahaan perkebunan kelapa sawit yang berasal dari orang-orang Cina Malaysia itu membakar hutan di Kalimantan dan Sumatera, yang menimbulkan akibat pencemaran udara yang membuat Malaysia dan Singapura marah. Tapi sebenarnya itu adalah perusahaan orang-orang mereka yang menanamkan modal di Indonesia. Bagaimana kita menghadapi masalah seperti ini? Artinya apa? Kepentingan dalam bidang hukum lingkungan atau dampak pencemaran lingkungan tidak bisa diselesaikan hanya oleh Indonesia. Aktivitas di Indonesia betul lokasinya penebangan hutan, pembakaran hutan, pembukaan kebun kelapa sawit, kemudian perkebunan, kemudian pertambangan. Tetapi siapa pemilik modal itu? Dan bagaimana hukum Malaysia mengendalikan perilaku warga negara Malaysia keturunan Chinese yang berinvestasi di Indonesia? Karena dampak kerusakan lingkungan yang dia lakukan di Sumatera, di Kalimantan, Sulawesi, imbasnya Malaysia dan Singapura juga mengalami asap, kemudian menghambat penerbangan, membuat orang-orang Malaysia sesak napas, sakit infeksi paru-paru. Nah, ini adalah persoalan kepentingan nasional dan kepentingan kerjasama internasional dalam bidang ekonomi, tetapi juga menimbulkan dampak kerusakan lingkungan yang akan menyebabkan beberapa negara dalam satu kawasan mengalami kerusakan. Mungkin isu ini agak sensitif, tapi sebagai diskusi ilmiah, saya pikir tidak apa-apa disampaikan karena kita sudah kenal baik dengan Profesor Dr. Rasyikah Khalid. Kalaupun tidak bisa dijawab secara terbuka, mungkin kita bisa ngobrol di luar forum resmi ini. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak atas soalannya, soalan yang bagus dan memang perlu dibincangkan secara terbuka, ya, kerana kita sebagai akademik tidak ada masalah untuk memberikan pandangan, ya. Di Malaysia untuk perdagangan sawit, ya, kita mengamalkan sustainable palm oil production, MSPO, Malaysia Sustainable Palm Oil Production, di mana untuk pembukaan kilang ladang sawit yang baru tidak boleh slash and burn, tidak boleh tebas dan bakar. Itu proses yang paling senang untuk membuka ladang baru dan kemudian
Land clearing.
ya, land clearing, and then bila dibakar boleh jadi baja, ya. Malaysia tidak membenarkan itu. Tapi apabila ada syarikat yang membuka ladang di Indonesia, keputusan untuk slash and burn itu kita tidak pasti dibuat di mana. Adakah di peringkat company atau di peringkat peladangnya. Jadi itu mungkin perlu diteliti kerana jika syarikat Malaysia yang beroperasi di Indonesia, dia tertakluk pada syariat Indonesia, tidak boleh slash and burn, dan Persusia ketat dibuat di Malaysia, namun bila berlaku di Indonesia, itu kita perlu teliti di mana kesilapan ataupun ketidakpatuhan yang berlaku. Jadi Malaysia dan Indonesia juga bekerjasama untuk mempertahankan ladang sawit, untuk mempertahankan industri sawit. Tapi dalam konteks pembakaran terbuka ataupun case problem that we have to go back on at which point the ketidakpatuhan itu berlaku lah. Jadi bila itu diselaraskan, saya rasa tidak ada masalah untuk pembukaan sawit yang baru, kerana ia juga membantu locals. Di Malaysia, ladang sawitnya diurus oleh Felda, memberi ladang untuk peneroka baru yang hidup miskin, dapat buka ladang, jadi peneroka dapat income, dan kemudian sudah ada generasi 3 Felda sekarang. Jadi ia satu inisiatif untuk mengurangkan kebuluran, kemiskinan, tapi bagaimana ladang dioperasikan yang perlu diperhatikan. Jadi itu untuk jawapan yang saya beri.
Baik, terima kasih Profesor Rasyikah. Baik, dari Pak Ahmad Wali sepertinya barangkali sudah cukup ya Pak. Kita lanjut ke penanya berikutnya, yaitu kepada Arindi. Boleh dipersilakan.
Thank you for the interesting topic and material, Prof. Rasyikah. Salam kenal, I'm Arindi Fajari Furqon as junior lecturer. Actually, I have two questions, but the second one is very important to us to hear from your opinion. To the first question, to the point of insufficient binding international commitment targeting biodiversity loss and pollution alongside climate change. Actually, International Court of Justice has a decision this year about the tackle of issue of climate change to recommend a state to make eye to the issue of the climate change affected to the other countries, especially to the Pacific countries. In your opinion, how potential this decision can decrease the impact of the pollution and maybe the impact of the climate change, especially for the developing countries like us? And the second one is how the position of the government of Malaysia to tackle the issue of the water pollution and waste management, Prof. And as we know that the dominant polluters is industrial activities between us as developing countries and also as like a United States as a developed countries. And actually for the government, it's emerging the dilemmatic position to choose between the environment issues and also to the economic growth, as we know that we still develop. And what I want to know is there any best practice from the government of the Malaysia to tackle this issue, Prof? And to relate into the Sustainable Development Goals recommendation for the UN. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Very complex question actually. Any ICJ cases applies only for the parties in the country. Unless and until the same problem happens in a country or Malaysia, then only we take precedent, and the government needs to do things that they need to do. But ICT cases doesn't bind countries. It's all about political will of the government. If they wanted to do, I mean, for developing countries, there are so many conflicting interests. Yes, sometimes government say kita sokong sustainable. Yes, we promote SDG, we promote this and that. But at the end of the day, the government needs money, and money comes from development. The next question is how they ensure sustainable development. How do they ensure that the development that takes place also protect the environment? And then I would say very difficult for us developing countries because of the conflicting interests. The European, they have cut down deforested so many years ago, and now they want us to protect the forest. There is also another issue. We want to develop, but we must also protect. They have developed long ago, and they have come up with all this new technology in place to say that they are doing sustainable development. But us, we need the money. So when Kyoto Protocol was signed by countries around the world, they come up with this common but differentiated responsibility. We have the duty to protect our forests. I think Malaysia, Indonesia, we are the mega biodiversity country. With Brazil and countries with this biodiversity rich country. And then they ask us to protect the forest. We cannot deforest. But what do they do to us? I mean, what are their contributions to us? They should provide us money to protect and use that money to develop in other ways. So that's common by differentiated responsibility, another principle that Kyoto Protocol produced. But whether the money comes into the country, that's another issue. So they give commitment, even in this coming, the one that Conference of Parties that's happening in Brazil now, there will be commitment. Japan say they will give 2 million or whatever. But how the money comes down to the country, to the grassroots level, that's another issue. So that's why, so just now I said about the Malaysian budget, 250 million for conserving forests, 600 million to conserve biodiversity. So I suppose that money eventually started to come down to the government, and government announced this. So the commitment to give money to developed countries has been made, but the money comes down very slowly. But so that's an issue about common but differentiated responsibility. So us in ASEAN, we are developing. We want to develop. We want to have high GDP, gross domestic product. But how are we going to balance that with environmental protection? That's another issue. Our society needs work. Work comes from development, but how that development also protect the environment. Something that our leaders also need to have capacity building to understand how sustainable development must be made, what type of decision-making process that they need to go through, environmental impact assessment, social impact assessment. We have that in our law, but how effective it is. That one particular development also protect the environment but also benefit the society. So that's a dilemma that we are facing, but we have that in our law, in the Town and Country Planning Act, but there are still issues surrounding it. So the Ministry of Natural Resources must be more proactive to highlight issues that still mingling around environmental protection.
Thank you, Professor. So basically, the government has their own ways. They already try to enact some environmental law, but then they are in problematic or dilemmatic condition. They cannot just say no to all the investors coming. they are in a difficult situation. But then each country needs to elaborate or practice what they have agreed, especially from international treaties, Professor. That's for Arimbi, maybe. Is that enough? Understandable? Okay, so next question from, there was one more question. Maybe the second session. Puja first.
Okay, good afternoon everyone and salam Rasyikah. And thank you for the opportunity, moderator, Miss. Introducing myself, my name is Puja and I'm from International Law Student. And I want to ask with the Professor Rasyikah. And Professor Rasyikah is explained about the establishing legal accountability and corporate environmental responsibility atau CER. And I want to ask with the Professor Rasyikah, what are the biggest obstacles to practicing CER sanction? For example, weak laws, corruption, non-transparency data, and or the political power of the global corporation. And I think so different for discuss. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, we have the corporate social responsibility now, but we are promoting corporate and environmental responsibility. Usually in Malaysia, when companies say that we are doing this for CSR, corporate social responsibility, they clean the rivers, they make campaigns, they provide fund for awareness program, but usually it's one-off program. So they just do it one day and then another year they come and do it again. So most of the CSR, if they claim that it's for environmental protection, is one-off event. But environment needs to protect throughout continuously. The environment must be protected all time, not one-off. So with corporate environmental responsibility, the company must come out with a proposal on how they can protect certain river, for instance, for a long time. So we are promoting this. So still under CSR, but we want to change it to CER. Because for CSR program usually one-off. We don't want that. We want CER, which is continuous. So the money must be, come down to the grassroots level all the time, so they can, do the work throughout the year, not one-off. So that is what we are promoting now.
Thank you, Professor. So there has been quite a change of mindset, I think, legal mindset. So that is not just CSR, no CER, more developed to accommodate the needs for environmental justice. That's for Puja's question. Maybe is that understandable and enough? Okay, maybe since every question's been answered, we move on to the second session, Professor. Another 3 questions for the second session. 1, already 2. Okay, one more. 3. All right. Okay, who will start first? Maybe Miss Mardadila.
Assalamualaikum Prof. Thank you for the kesempatannya. Okay, I want to ask about the adoption of electric vehicle in Indonesia and Malaysia. Professor, the global shift toward electric vehicle is widely promoted as promising climate mitigation strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emission and improve air quality in urban areas. Governments, industry, and international institutions often celebrate electric vehicle. But in dilemma, the accelerating accumulation of hazardous battery was present a new layer of environmental threats that remain largely unaddressed within existing regulation and technological frameworks. if the primary goals is to address the triple planetary crisis, thus the rapid expansion of mass consumption electric vehicle market risk generating new environmental problem on a comparably large scale. So this is the solution from electric vehicle, but make a new problem again, Professor. So about what is your opinion, sir, Professor?
Can you elaborate on the new problem? Can you elaborate on the new problems?
New problem, but because triple planetary crisis is pollution, and then pollution, climate change, and then biodiversity loss. So the electric vehicle, this one, make a problem in pollution and biodiversity loss because the hazardous from battery lithium. Yes. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. So electric vehicle is an easy way to say that we are reducing our climate change, we are reducing emission. But electric vehicle still doesn't produce that much carbon. But vehicle is one, one product that can cause many other things. If not electric vehicle, previously we have our conventional vehicle that we're using. When they are no longer in use, they are a waste. Right? A vehicle which is not used, it becomes end-of-life vehicle. It becomes a waste, which has been a problem in Malaysia. The government is trying to put a limit of 10 years use, and then the car needs to be scrapped, and then to reduce the waste or problem that end of life vehicle will cause. Now we have electric vehicle. I'm not sure how far the lithium battery can work. How long do you think? 10 years, 20 years? Yep. Yeah, 5 to 10 years, yeah. Then the company usually they will come up with new technology to say that this can be recycled or whatever. So any product now need to come to a point where it cannot, if it ends, if the life cycle ends, how to recycle it back. So in Europe, they already talk about circular economy. I mean, nothing goes to waste. If you have new product, make sure it doesn't become a waste. It can be reused, recycled, upgrade, or whatever. So it is 6, 7 types of R already. So you choose on how to make sure that your product doesn't become a waste. So I believe that the electric vehicle company, they need to also think of how their product doesn't end up in the waste area, and how they can recycle or reuse or recycle, reuse, reuse. That's many other R, right?
Reuse, recycle.
That's a 3R. And now I come across 6R, reduce. Okay. So for electric vehicle not to cause any more problem, the manufacturing company must provide alternative on how their product doesn't end up in a waste, on how their product can be reused or recycled or re-upgrade or whatever. So I think that's the way forward to ensure that nothing goes to waste. We will still have problem in solving the unused vehicle, parked everywhere and cause a place for vandalism, and all that. Hope I answer your question.
Thank you, Professor. So the question from Madatila was regarding the electric vehicles. how it is perceived as a solution for environment, but then it caused another potential problem, Professor, because there might be leaking from the battery and all of it. So maybe it's also the responsibility for the company who made it, and as well as the one or the people who use the vehicle themselves. They must be aware of the term, how long they can use the electric vehicle, the battery term, like that. Okay, maybe that's for the answer for the last question. I see that's enough. Okay, for the next one who would ask question would be Theo, right?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the interesting topic from Rasyikah. This is might be slightly off topic from the climate change issue, but it still has the element within the scope of environmental law. It is a fundamental question. As we are aware pollution is frequently caused by deforestation, irresponsible waste disposal, and mining activities that are often environmentally unsustainable and because of other human activities. And in Indonesia, under the law number 6 of 2023 on job creation law, it's called Omnibus Law, the environmental licensing regime has shifted to be more pro-investment through a risk-based approach. Activities with low environmental impact only require an SPPL or Statement of Undertaking, and those with medium impact require UKL-UPL or Environmental Management and Monitoring Efforts, and those with high impact require a full AMDAL or Environmental Impact Assessment. However, in many practice, we often face issues where many business activities fail to comply with these procedures, which give an impact for the environmental. My question is, Prof. Rasyikah, how is the environmental licensing for business entities or individual regulated in Malaysia? What legal approach or framework does Malaysia use in granting these permits? Are there any specific criteria or different standards applied compared to the risk-based system in Indonesia? And how does Malaysia address business entities that violate environmental regulation and breach the terms of the permits granted to them? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So in Malaysia, for companies to operate, they need a license. And what the Malaysian government, the Department of Environment, is doing about 5 years back, license can only be obtained or renewed if the company has environmental auditor. The environmental auditor will do the report on how the company is reducing pollution, is recycling their water, and incorporate green technology into their system. So when the license finish, the Department of Environment will look into the report. Only and when they show that they prove that they have, reduced the impact to the environment, their license can be renewed. So that is what Department of Environment in Malaysia is doing for the 5 years. So we're getting more companies are incorporating new technology into their business, so they reduce the pollution. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. So, Theo, Professor Rasyikah had explained that basically in Malaysia and Indonesia both, we have environmental concern in our legal system, and both needs assessment, just like we have AMDAL. In Malaysia also, the company who will potentially harm the environment requires special permit and auditor as well, yeah, Professor? and the permit or license is limited to about 2 years. So they are given license to operate, and then they have to renew it. They have to be re-audited again. Just like maybe in Indonesia, we have the AMDAL system. So there are similarities with our system. So maybe, does that answer your question, Theo? Thank you, Theo. And the third inquirers would be Rhea, right? Okay.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. I would like to ask something regarding the international legal framework. Mentioned before that many environmental agreements like the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement are mostly non-binding. Does this lack of binding international law actually within the obligation states, especially countries like Malaysia and also Indonesia, especially regarding the triple planetary crisis? And I also may I ask, in your view, would a fully binding global environmental treaty would be necessary or even realistic to push for a stronger and also for a better environmental, considering the participation of the government and also the indigenous people are still minimum or even lacking?
Thank you for your question. The international treaties, when countries sign, they once you ratify or you provide your commitment, technically you are bound, but you are not being punished as as other agreement. Okay, UNFCCC, the Paris Agreement, for instance, Malaysia gave commitment to reduce this much, Indonesia gave commitment to reduce this much emission. But what happens if you fail, if you don't achieve your target? Nothing much can be done by the international community. The only thing that they can do is to perhaps, boycott, or put sanction if you fail to do something. That's the only thing that international community can do if you don't meet our target as agreed in the international level. So that's the problem with international agreement. The other countries, because international agreement involves states, sovereign state, independent state. You are sovereign on your own. You can't impose other sovereign to do what you want. So the only thing that they can do is to maybe boycott or economic sanction or political sanction, or if you really don't agree, then you can send your diplomats back. That's the only way that international law works. Commitment like country like Malaysia, we agreed to reduce this much. If I go, yesterday I come from Kuala Lumpur to Jakarta, then to Bengkulu. I look, from the aeroplane, the view. Malaysia is still a small country. What much can Malaysia do to reduce the climate change effect globally? We are just, even if there is a pollution, it's not an international problem. If there is case, for instance, just now, the effect only affect Malaysia, Singapore, or Indonesia. So whatever we do is basically for the country, not for the global impact and so forth. Indonesia, you have, Malaysia, we are still need to develop, but in a controlled manner. In a controlled manner, not very excessive, but we are actually the developing countries are actually the sample of sustainable development, I would say, compared to Europeans, whatever they have injured the environment 100 years ago, and now they are saying that they are the one that need to be followed. But you have done the damage before. You must help the developing countries to develop in a very sustainable manner, build up the capacity of our operators to think in a different way to ensure that we develop in a very sustainable manner. I hope I answered that question.
Thank you, Professor. So Aria's question was regarding international binding legal force for environmental protection, basically. So it has binding force or binding strength, but then it's not that strong compared to each country's own sovereignty. Just like Indonesia, we call it kedaulatan. So when we become parties to the treaty or agreement, we naturally have to follow the terms. But then, what if the country didn't follow? They do have sanction mechanism from the international organization like UN maybe, but then it's not as strong as what we can do in our own legal system nationally. Maybe that's the answer for Rhea's question. Thank you, Rhea, and all other people who have questions also. And I think everyone's deeply interested in this topic because it's so relatable to us, Professor, but then we also have time limit, unfortunately, so that the question from Rhea is unfortunately the last question for today. But then everyone who has questions, they are all great questions, Professor. And maybe we're looking forward to your next visit here, and maybe should she visit here again, you may prepare the question for the next lecture or maybe seminar. And for the conclusion, please allow me to deliver a little bit of summary, Professor. So the materials given is about the triple planetary crisis, consisting 3 big problems that are biodiversity crisis, pollution, and of course climate change. This is the global issue, not only faced by Malaysia and Indonesia, but literally every country in the world right now as we talk. And in Malaysia, there has been a shift of mindset, I think, Professor, legal mindset. So there's been innovation by the federals, and also they have tried to accommodate the local wisdom as well. So the people has the right to deliver their opinion as well. And this would be accommodated. They are constantly looking forward to enhancing or improving the legal system in order to provide the environmental and climate justice as well. And apparently in Malaysia it's been quite advanced because there's been development like maybe in legal system, procedural legal system, should there be a crime regarding environment, there must be a specific framework already to handle the issue, I think. So yeah, it's been developed. And from the discussion session, we have interesting questions regarding the impact of international treaties, as well as the corporate for the for the main perpetrator maybe in environment pollution. So our challenge for the next years and the next for the climate and environmental issue is to balance out and also innovate the legal system in each and every country, and in here maybe Indonesia and Malaysia specifically, to be able to provide not only legal basis but also the mechanism, the procedure about it. And it's, if we are members of international treaty or agreement, maybe it means we have to have our own consciousness or kesadaran untuk juga menggunakan peraturan atau mungkin asas dan landasan dari perjanjian internasional itu for our legal development. Maybe that's all for the summary, Professor. Forgive me should there be any mistakes in the translation and all. And that is all for the discussion session and our general lecture today. Big applause for our Professor Rasyikah. Thank you for our dean, our professors and lecturers, also our students here present. We appreciate you all, and I am Chita as moderator today. I am delighted, but also I am sorry if there are mistakes in my translations and my delivery. And then see you in the next general lecture or seminar. Thank you. I shall return to the Master of Ceremony. Baik, hadirin